I want to embrace new technology and be able to use it to allow more prosperity for our nation than ever. But some of it's very scary, and I don't know that everybody fully appreciates it. It's not just Google, but better.
Right.
It's, I heard some people speak about this. It's more than just a tool. Like the example was used, like if you get a knife, you can use this to cut lettuce. You can also use it to cut your knee, or cut your whatever, and and start bleeding. It could be really bad, right? Or you can use it to cut lettuce. It's not that. AI can essentially think for itself. So think of it this way. If you take all of human intelligence, everything that's written, everything that has been said or uttered or published, it has the ability to almost instantaneously access that.
Americans are capable of achieving extraordinary things when they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. This is American Potential.
Welcome to the American Potential Podcast. I'm your host, David Fromm. So we're coming here live from Springfield, Illinois, celebrating America's 250th anniversary. We're celebrating the founding fathers and the founding principles that were enshrined in the Declaration. And we're really happy to have a guest that's maybe a familiar face to you, not only because he's a Fox News contributor who's on all the time, but also a former congressman from Utah, Jason Chaffetz, who is also the chair of the House Oversight and Reform Committee, and really did some wonderful stuff in Congress. So we're really excited to have you here, Congressman. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, well, and welcome to lovely Illinois. I know it's a lot flatter than where you're from.
Hey, we are here on the birthday of President Lincoln. This is his birthplace, so come on. It doesn't get any better than that.
That is.
That's good.
I actually thought it was pretty close. Wandering around, I was like, man, how would you do that? I guess there was some planning there. So I want, we have this thing we call the One Small Step campaign that we've been talking about as in conjunction with America's 250th birthday. And it's about, how do people or how did people in the past, and currently, take that one small step to get involved in their community, get involved in politics, get involved in making their community a better place, and then, with the ripple effect to just shape our nation. Sometimes a small thing. So I'm interested, how did, were you always interested in politics, or how did you come to?
Not really. It actually happened in part because my mom passed away from cancer. And out in Utah, the biggest donor to create the Huntsman Cancer Institute pour hundreds of millions of dollars in to fight the disease that took my mom's life. That person was going to maybe run for governor.
Oh, yeah.
And so I asked to come meet with them. I thought, if they're going to fight cancer and pour hundreds of millions of dollars, I could probably help that person. I didn't even know what they believed in. But through a course of time, I started to, and then I realized, I'd like to do more with this. And it's amazing because the world is run by those who show up. And you realize real quickly that most people don't get involved. But if you do so with a sincere heart, you do it in the right intention and the right way, you learn a lot about yourself because you start to figure out what you truly believe in. And then more importantly, why do you believe what you believe? And I just happen to be very conservative. I just believed in self-determination, and I was an able-bodied American, and I shouldn't have government taking resources from somebody else's wallet and giving them to me. And I believed in freedom. I believed in liberty. I believed in those conservative values, and voila, I got involved, got engaged. Next thing I know, I was running for Congress.
Yeah, I saw, I know a little bit of your history, and, you worked in the administration for the governor then, but in a short amount of time, that's a pretty good leap. And it wasn't like an easy road in Congress. It wasn't like they just tapped you and said, hey, go be congressman.
Hey, look, I ran against a 12-year incumbent Republican because I just thought, what? The way our founders set this up, we're supposed to revisit who represents us every 24 months, it means it's a perpetual campaign. You're going to represent 800,000 people.
Yeah.
And so you've got to get out there and talk about issues. And that's what I did for 2 years. I ran up and down the district. Was big. I had 2 counties in my congressional district, both of which were bigger than the state of New Jersey. So they were pretty big. I got a big swatch of land, too much federal land out that way.
Yeah.
But, and I just started talking to people and listening. And and then offering ideas and principles. And it resonated, and I beat a 12-year incumbent Republican to get to Congress, and worked for me.
I mean, you had a lot of success in Congress. You know, I can tell you, as an observer prior to even looking,
Right.
looking at this interview, you rose quickly, and eventually being the chairman of the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, which really puts you in the spotlight. So before we get, I'd love to hear a little about that, because there's some pretty fascinating stuff. But how did it feel to serve in Congress? Like,
It's a tremendous honor. I mean, you win, and then you sort of have that. There's a movie called The Candidate that starred Robert Redford, and he wins, and then he says, "Now what?" And you kind of feel like that, even though you campaign and you talk about it every day. Once you get there, you're on the floor of the House. You got the Capitol. You're interacting with the president. It is surreal. I think the lesson for me was somebody once said, "Focus determines reality." And when you focus on something and you work hard towards something, you can achieve whatever it is you want to achieve. I focused on becoming the chairman of that oversight committee because when I ran for Congress, I thought that adhering to the Constitution, and I believed in fiscal discipline, limited government, accountability, and a strong national defense. Well, when I looked at accountability, it was pretty vague, right? And so how do you do that in the halls of Congress? It ends up that the Oversight Committee has the jurisdiction since 1814 to investigate anything, anytime, anywhere, and oversee all of the appropriations that Congress had made. So to me, that was a natural fit. But back then, I was like the only person. I mean, literally the only person who put oversight as number one. Now it's like the most popular committee because I think we showed that you could really get after things and hold people accountable. Now, they don't give us handcuffs. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, but nobody went to jail." I said, well, Barack Obama was the president. The executive branch has the handcuffs, but I could point out the waste, the fraud, the abuse. And, now that Donald Trump's there, things are going even better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of our listeners will be familiar with some of the things that you led the investigations on, things like Benghazi and Fast and Furious and a number of other things. What were some of the things that stood out to you when there were such weighty, controversial, high-profile things going on?
You start to realize, if not you, that there's nobody else that's going to do it. You know, when we had the 4 dead Americans in Benghazi, including our U.S. ambassador, I issued a letter to Secretary Clinton, making sure that she did the preservation letter. Yeah. I was the first person to go to Libya after the attack. And that started down this whole thing. And then, we had things with Lois Lerner. We had IRS problems. We had the targeting of the 300 conservative groups.
Oh, yeah.
And so we got knee deep into that. And then Ron DeSantis and he was a subcommittee chair. I was the chairman, but he was my subcommittee chair. The two of us really wanted to hold him accountable because he had a duly issued subpoena to provide these documents. And the IRS said, well, it'll take years to get them. Then they said they didn't have them. Then it ends up that when the inspector general went through and looked at it, guess what? They did have them. And then they destroyed them after the fact.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's against the law. If you did that to the IRS, right, what would the IRS do? You'd be in jail. So we were trying to hold the IRS accountable, and the 300 plus groups eventually settled out of court. I don't know what that resolution was, but I'm glad we highlighted it because I think it'll prevent a rogue IRS to doing some of those things in the future.
So, we're talking about our founding principles here, and at the America's 250th anniversary. It's so fun to be able to have this occasion to celebrate America and what it's founded upon. But as you reflect on the founding principles, where do you think we've done a pretty good job of, having fidelity to them, and where have we kind of wandered off?
Well, look, the United States, it's truly a miracle. I think it was divinely created. I think there's divine inspiration in getting us to where we are. I think this later this year, celebrating 250 years, we should take time to celebrate. I guess where we're off the rails a little bit is when I went to Congress, I really did believe that we all wanted the same conclusion. We just had different ways of getting there. When I left Congress, I felt totally different.
Really?
I really felt like there were those of us that loved the country. They loved the red, white, and blue. We believed in freedom and liberty and prosperity. And But there's a whole group out there that doesn't love the country. They're subversive in their efforts. They want to sow division. They don't want to see success. They don't believe in individual freedom and prosperity. They think prosperity's bad and evil. And that is so foreign to me. Something I still have a hard time comprehending, but they want to sow division. And you look at where we are today, they're taking every turn, every chance they can. And with social media and the way our ability to communicate has changed, it's not always necessarily good. And it'll really put us to the test as we move forward as a nation.
So there's, when we look back at the founders,
and
we have a real look at like what they talked about,
right.
They argued. They had a lot of disagreements, like really substantial ones, that they hashed out in Independence Hall or Carpenter's Hall or wherever they were. And I think a lot of us maybe lament the discourse nowadays in politics. Do elected representatives and everyone else really talk to each other, or just talk in sound bites or something? But so having served in a deliberative body, but also understanding the founders, and now being part of Fox News, probably the biggest megaphone out there talking about it in the news world. I mean, how do you reflect on what it was like and what it's like now, and maybe where we should go in terms of political discourse?
Well, a couple things. First of all, our founders set it up so that it was not an easy glide path. I mean, I heard Justice Scalia talk about this. If you look up this talk, it's really good. But he said, our Constitution is, and my words, not his, he was much more eloquent. He talked about the miracle of our Constitution is that it's not an easy glide path. It's not if we wanted a quick, easy path, we'd have a king or a monarch or some do parliaments that are it's easy to pass things, right? But not us. We have a bicameral legislature. You've got a president who has a veto power. That makes it very difficult to run the gauntlet and actually get something passed. To me, that meant, hey, the founders are really actually conservative. They don't want quick, swift changes. Yep. They want to go lurching to the left or the right fast. You don't want to go like that. The other thing I think is interesting, and I was reminded by that because I went to the President Lincoln's presidential library. They have a whole room that you should go visit, and maybe you have, but everybody should go through there. The media was just vilifying Lincoln his entire presidency. I mean, we think a lot of the stuff the media does to President Trump is vile. Oh, you should see what they were doing to Lincoln with no social media, no ability to respond, making him to be like the devil himself and all that. Now, I recognize that he was not one of our founding fathers, but one of the most consequential presidents ever.
Absolutely.
And yet we survived because we had a free and open press. You don't have that in any other country.
Yeah.
You just don't have that. Well, we also have things like the Second Amendment, our Bill of Rights, all up and down, all of them. And so it's truly a miracle what we've been able to accomplish. But those things are going to be tested like we've never had them tested before.
Well, I think it brings us to something that you've been looking into a lot and learning about, which is AI, artificial intelligence. Yeah. And it will impact our rights and our freedoms. Yeah. So talk to me about what you see in the future, what you're excited about, your concerns, and how that intersection with policy and our rights happens.
I'm really, I want to embrace new technology and be able to use it to allow more prosperity for our nation than ever. But some of it's very scary, and I don't know that everybody fully appreciates it. It's not just Google, but better.
Right.
It's, I heard some people speak about this. It's more than just a tool. The example was used, if you get a knife, you can use this to cut lettuce. You can also use it to cut your knee, or cut your whatever and have and start bleeding. It could be really bad, right? Or you can use it to cut lettuce. It's not that. AI can essentially think for itself. So think of it this way. If you take all of human intelligence, everything that's written, everything that has been said or uttered or published, it has the ability to almost instantaneously access that and put it in such a form that it can do things faster than a human will ever be able to do. And so that opens up a world of possibilities, but it's also scary because a lot of people are talking about what does this world look like when AI is able to displace what you do, whether you're young or old. I think our young people are scared of it because they don't know what to major in. Mm-hmm. We used to say in this country, hey, we need a bunch of young people to be coders to make all this new technology work.
That wasn't that long ago.
That wasn't that long ago.
Right.
And now they're saying, don't go into coding because AI can code itself. If you just explain in layman's terms, I want an app that does this, it'll do it for you in less than a minute. And that becomes scary. You can drive a car and go from point A to point B without ever touching a pedal or a steering wheel. Those types of things are here today. So when everything's autonomous and there's no need for pilots or drivers or teachers or what's everybody going to do? And that'll test our principles. Instead of just being protectionists, we got to figure out how work and what work looks like, because I think work is a good thing. I think it propels people, creates prosperity. It gives you self-worth. It does a lot of things, but there's some that believe, oh, we won't need to work anymore. Well, how's that going to work?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It's pretty scary. It's pretty mind-blowing when you get to it. And these things are going to take place over the next 2, 3, 4 years. And I think it'll be probably at, the top 3 or 4 issues going into the presidential election in 2028.
I feel like there's a tension between innovation, and progress through innovation. I mean, obviously that's super important to a group like ours or anybody who cares about our country and knows the story of our country. And but at the same time, if it's innovation or that is going to take away jobs or could it erode our freedom? That I think trying to figure out what do you think about when you think about AI that way? How do you think about it? And then also, should Congress play a role here?
Congress should play a role. The problem is they're a bunch of idiots when it comes to technology. I'm just saying, you got 535 people there. There's maybe 4, maybe on a good day, that know anything about technology or how it works. And so you're asking a group to set the guardrails of something they can't even speak the language of. They don't even comprehend it. And that's why you have the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, come before Congress. They just run circles around it because they don't know. Congress doesn't even know what questions to ask. Okay. I think one of the biggest problems and challenges for people, particularly young people, but old people too, everybody, is privacy.
Yeah.
It used to be that you could live your life in anonymity. And I think you have a right to privacy as an American, but everywhere you go, there's going to be a camera and facial recognition. You have Meta combining with the Ray-Ban to come up with the glasses. So you could walk down the street. They just look like reading glasses. And as you go down the street, it's peppering. It's able to look at that person and identify, oh, that's Kathy. She worked at the University of Illinois and she studies botany. And you could just come up to her and say, oh, Kathy, hey, didn't we work together on that? I mean, you could fake your way through something instantaneously and you would never know because it's a one-way glass. Those types of things. And I worry that everything I have 6 grandkids at this point. So,
get out.
Yes, I do.
Good for you.
They're going to grow up in a world where there is no intellectual property. There is no personal privacy. That those things that technology can do some very perverted things. I think bullying and those types of things are really going to get out of hand. And this is technology that we already have here today. I'm not talking about, at some point, this is technology that's right here today. And we got to deal with it. And Congress better get their act together and put some guardrails on it.
Yeah, it really is the big thing. And we keep talking about it. It impacts everything. We talk a lot about energy policy. We end up talking about privacy rights. It's ubiquitous, and job training. I mean, it really affects
how
everything.
you learn. I mean, I think
Education.
Teachers will totally displaced. I think the teachers will all be online. Yeah. Or you'll wear a headset and be able to go visit a volcano or go dive into the heart and see how it works. And you don't need a teacher for that. You just need some AI and you can get there.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah. So I want to go back a little bit to, the campaign, the One Small Step campaign and talking about people getting involved civically.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who maybe they're sitting there watching you on Fox News. They're like, yeah, he's all right. Or I just totally disagree with him. He's full of it. But they just sit there. They're slapping their couch. They're telling their spouse, but
Right.
what would you tell them? Like, how should they take action and act on their values and their beliefs?
I love this campaign because what it does is it says you can play a role and you can get involved. And it's true. That's what I did. You got to take that first step, that first small step, and then it'll blossom from there. The advice I'd give is it's not enough to be a keyboard warrior. It's not enough to get out just on Facebook or Instagram or whatever you want to do, X or whatever. I mean, look, I do that in part for a living. Okay. So don't get me wrong. There's a place for it. But when you speak from your heart and explain to people not just what you believe, but why you believe it, and you laugh and you do so with a sincere, open heart, then you're going to attract a lot more than you will repel. And if you help your neighbor, and, I tell a story about this member of the United States military, and he's out in Afghanistan, and I was able to visit him, and I said, what's your number one worry? And you know what he said? I don't have somebody to help my wife mow the lawn. It just breaks your heart, And if you really talk to people on a human level with a sincere heart, then you open up the door to have a discussion about something you care about. Maybe it's the military, maybe it's ICE, maybe it's healthcare, maybe it's the economy, maybe it's a particular candidate that you're trying to champion. That opens up the world, and I want everybody to be involved and engaged. Everything from your homeowners association to your city council to your, the county council or however you're structured, your state, Congress, national politics. Some of us get to do it full time, but most people do it, an hour here, 30 minutes there. And that's about right. And that's what our founders, I think, relied upon. Our founders relied upon that the idea that people would get involved and engage. It's your government. It's our government. And you got to remember all those representatives and senators, they all work for us.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. That's what makes the United States unique, but that's also what's required to take that small step and get involved and engaged.
I think back to the founders. I mean, they were part-time founders, really. I mean, they had other lives, and even the militias. So much of the military were, you read back to the Revolution and the crisis that would come at the end of the year when Washington's like, well, my guys are going to leave to go tend their crops or something, and they want to be gone, and it's like, wow. And it really is kind of a fascinating thing, but it speaks to like the organic bottom-up nature of our of the birth of our nation and how it should continue. And I think that one of the things I think about this campaign, and I've appreciated working for Americans of Prosperity for going on 15 years, is we can take that person who's slapping their couch or complaining to their spouse and take their voice and try to aggregate it with other voices. Because as you know, somebody who's in a congressional office and worked in the governor's office, is those aggregated voices together start to have a lot more impact and can affect public policy in the direction of a state or a nation. And so that's what we're trying to do, and I'm excited to hopefully do it. But I think it's a challenge because there's so many ways to check out and be apathetic and be upset about stuff.
I mean, there's the distraction in your day is very real. It's easy to just do, but if you decide, hey, look, I want to put part of my time towards this, and it's an investment sometimes of time, sometimes of money, and people can do what they can do. They start with their neighborhood and their friends and their networks and their family. Then you come to an event and you realize, wow, there's a lot of people who believe what I believe. And that's a good thing. That's the miracle of the United States of America.
So finally, as a frequent Fox News contributor,
yes,
how has that changed your perspective on anything, or obviously changes your experience from being a member of Congress? Like, what do you hear from people? Does it give you a different perspective on the conversation?
Very blessed to do it. I think a lot of people want to do it, and not many get to do it. So I'm very grateful to be able to continue to do. I like to think that I continued to learn about things that I never thought I'd get involved and engaged with. Fox, they'll kind of generally tell you the topic, but it's up to you to go do the research. And so because I'm on Fox, I'm able to pick up the phone and call people and say, all right, we're talking about whatever,
Yeah.
XYZ. You're the subject matter expert. Help me understand and learn. And that's what kind of lights my fire day after day after day. There are things I know because I've had lots of experience. I love talking about those. But then, like artificial intelligence right now has really got me thinking.
Yeah.
It's really like, here are my principles. Here are my goals. Here's what our Constitution says. But I've never had to think about, what does a post-labor economy look like? That sounds crazy to me. And you got Elon Musk over there telling us we're going to colonize the moon and Mars. I'm like, what does that look like? And so there's always somebody doing something stupid somewhere, right? But then there's also new horizons, new things that make you think. And I love that. That keeps me involved and engaged and on my toes.
Oh, it makes you interesting to listen to, too. That's great. Well, I really appreciate you joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Sharon, I really appreciate you being part of this event. You're a cleanup hitter in this event tonight, and I'm excited.
No pressure there.
The good people of Central Illinois will love it. I know not that different from all the good people of Utah, I think, at some point.
Well, thank you.
If you like this episode, please like and subscribe to our channel, and look us up on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And always remember, liberty and freedom are easily taken for granted. Don't take it for granted. Go out there and defend liberty and freedom. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to American Potential. You may listen to more stories from Americans working every day to expand freedom and opportunity in their communities by visiting AmericanPotential.com.